Hi guys, welcome back. So in today's video, we're going to be introducing a new project for Regal Autosport. So one to join our Mark 8 Golf R that you already have. But first things first, let's give it a little clean before we introduce it to you. So pretty much everyone would have got it. It's a Porsche 996 Carrera 2. So this one is a early model, so it's the Mark 1 with the 3.4 litre engine, so making around 300 horsepower from the factory. Obviously, exterior on this car isn't particularly too great. A few dinks, a few paint marks, and also a little bit of corrosion as well. But the reason why we sort of chose to pick this one up is because as a base for what we want to do with it as a project, it seems to be a pretty solid one. Obviously, you never really know until you get it back to base, get it up on the ramp and see what it's like underneath. So this particular car, it's had the IMS bearing already done by Hardtech, had it replaced again quite recently. It's had a gearbox build, and the person who previously owned it has spent a lot of money on this car maintaining it, with regular maintenance, tyre changes, suspension, all those kinds of bits. He spent a lot of money on this. Although it doesn't look too tidy, it really should be mechanically, so we're hoping to use this as a nice base. So the reason why we decided to go for this particular model was actually we went to Flat 6 and we saw that a lot of people were enjoying these 996s, and we kind of got inspired to sort of get one ourselves and see if we can have some fun with it, because usually people think that, you know, you have to get a GT3, GT2, something like that to have a lot of fun, especially on track. But we want to turn this Carrera 2, something that is at the lower end of the price range at the moment, into something that can truly be enjoyed on the track and also the road. So let's go through some of the specs of the car as well. So it's a fairly basic model, doesn't have a sunroof, but it has climate control, it has a 3-spoke steering wheel, it has cruise control, and also the sport seats as well. Obviously this particular model doesn't have traction control, any of the PSM, anything like that, so it can be considered as a real driver's car. So I think the next thing to do is get out on the road and see what it drives like. So we're out with the 996 C2, let's see what this car drives like on the road. So if we go back to some of the headline figures on this car, so it's obviously a very, very basic pre-facelift C2, no sunroof, no heated seats, sort of like no creature comforts whatsoever. So weighing in at around about 1,320 kilos for this model, and because it's a 3.4, it makes around 300 horsepower. And on paper, I thought that was not going to be particularly very fun to drive, but as you can sort of see now, it actually picks up speed quite nicely. And the nice thing about this car as well is that you don't, when you're actually accelerating and things like that, you're not actually going that quickly. So, you know, you're driving around on the B roads, you're going about 60 miles an hour, something like that, and you're having so much fun. The gearing is kind of perfect really for sort of like the B road blasting. You know, the top of second gear, you get into around sort of like 60 miles an hour. The Flat 6 sounds absolutely nuts when you've got the windows open, just like this. So I think it's a recipe for a lot of fun. I think the only thing that lets this particular car down is the suspension that is running on at the moment. I'm pretty sure it's standard. It's covered maybe about 165,000 miles. So that is a ton of miles on a standard suspension. It feels like super wallowy, but you still get that really nice feeling that you do from a Porsche, which is all the weight's in the back. You just sort of like line the car up, you punch the throttle, and you've literally got all the traction in the world. And it gives you that unique front end feeling as well that you don't really get from any other car, which is really nice. In this particular car, I think we touched on earlier, it's had a gearbox rebuild. The gearbox feels nice and tight. I would argue that it probably feels a lot better than sort of like G50 boxes from like 996s, 997s, stuff like that. G50, if you don't know, that's the ones that are used in the like turbos and GT3s. And with all of that put together, I'm actually really surprised just how much I like this car. I'm really pleasantly surprised. The sound, the acceleration, how the car feels, all that kind of stuff is like, it's literally up there. So, I mean, it leaves me really confused as to why sort of like the 996 is perceived as not being like a true Porsche, or not being like a real 911, all that kind of usual forum chit chat, blah, blah, blah. Because obviously the reason why people probably argued there wasn't a 911 back in the day was obviously sort of like the questionable headlight design, which has actually really grown on me. And also the water-cooled engine. A lot of people forget that Porsche had a lot of success with water-cooled engines in like GT racing, with like the 993, the 996 GT1 car, and it was just a natural progression of how things were always going to go, unless we've all got sort of like Singer kind of money, and I don't really think people are going to be spending Singer kind of money on a 996 quite just yet. Maybe in 20-30 years time, something like that, who knows. But they went with the water-cooled design to keep up with the emissions regulations that were sort of like going towards that at the time, which obviously led to this particular engine series. And started off in the 996 with the 3.4 litre for the non-S, 3.6 for the S, and then later on 3.6 for the non-S. And to be honest, 200 horsepower on this feels like plenty, absolutely feels like plenty. Obviously, would always love more power, but it does feel really nicely balanced. So I can only imagine the later cars feel even better. I think one of the most interesting videos that I found on sort of like the story of the 996, sort of like the design process for it, some of the sacrifices that had to be made, why certain decisions were made, things like that, was probably the discussion between Lee Sibley of like Nineworks, formerly Total 911, and Pinky Lay, who actually led the design on the 996, and he explains some of the design choices, some of the things that he was battling with who he calls like the bean counters. And don't forget, this car was made in the time when Porsche had absolutely no money, and they had to split the development between the 996 and the Boxster at the same time to obviously save on the funds, get double bubble out of two different cars to be able to sell. And I think that's quite an interesting story, so I'm going to put that on the screen now, so you should be able to click onto that. Hope you enjoy that video. Obviously let us know what you think about that, because I think that's a bit of sort of like a hidden gem really. But no, I'm really enjoying this car, looking forward to where we can go with it in the future. I think one of the things we're definitely going to have to do is look at the cooling on it, because the cooling temperature, I shouldn't really be driving it like it is now, but it's going at about 100 degrees, something like that. Don't forget the 996 C2 has only got the two side radiators, so we can put high performance radiators in the sides, but also we can add in like a center radiator as well. So we'll most likely do that. Obviously the 3.4 at the moment, we should be able to lift the capacity all the way up to maybe like 3.9, something like that. And we've obviously done throttle bodies on like the E30 M20, also the 2002 with the S14 engine, so maybe we'll put some throttle bodies on this car as well, really sort of like open it up. So maybe we'll be able to make even more power than, for example, like the 996 GT3 RS of the day, which was only making, I believe, off the top of my head, about 365 horsepower, something like that. But obviously, that's really a completely different car, because the GT3 RS was like a homologation special to homologate some of the suspension components and things like that. So yeah, that's everything on, or not everything, I'm sure I could go into way more detail, but it's all probably information I'll just be regurgitating. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this 996 C2. Never thought in a million years that I would actually enjoy it, but I am absolutely amazed at how much I enjoy it. And I think people who are sleeping on these need to stop. And if one of your friends have got them, or you know someone that has one, a dealership's got one, something like that, just take it out with an open mind, see what it's like, see if you like it. So yeah, obviously now you're part of this journey with us on this particular build. To be completely honest, we don't have an exact plan on what we're going to do step by step like we do with some other projects. So you'll really be going along the journey with us. First things first, I think we've got to get the car into the workshop. We'll have a look, see what kind of work might need to be done. Obviously, we've really highlighted some of the body work on there. I think suspension is definitely going to be part of it. Obviously, cooling, like we said, and then maybe do some engine upgrades as well. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Let us know in the comments what you would like to see from the series, things you would like to know, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, see you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then please give us a thumbs up. If you'd like to watch other videos of ours that YouTube thinks you'll like, then click up here. If you'd like to watch some other videos that we have in the same playlist, then click here. And obviously, if you enjoyed the video, then we really appreciate if you gave us a subscription. And then obviously you'll be updated when other videos of ours go live, and you can do that quite easily by clicking here. Hope to see you soon.